My name is Wajahat Ali, and I'm the co-host of the stream for Al-Jazeera America. My 10 ways to break down cultural stereotypes. First and foremost, for storytellers, I think for journalists who want to break down cultural stereotypes, first and foremost is awareness. You have to be aware that we live in the multicultural laboratory of the world, the United States of America, where identities and narratives are messy and complex. We have to be aware of our own ignorance. I'm ignorant. There's no way I know all the stories that exist within America. To have awareness that there are multiple stories and multiple cultures and that there is cultural ignorance and cultural marginalization is key. Without awareness, you're already lost. Awareness leads to what I think is number two. It's not enough to be aware. After being aware, you have to care. Right? You actually have to give 5 cents, like if you will. You have to give a crap about the world, right? So okay, I don't know, but I care and I have empathy and I want to know more. So awareness is not enough. Awareness has to be married to empathy, caring. Third, now you're aware and now you're empathetic and now you care. So what do? You have to have proactive curiosity. That's what I call number three. Proactive curiosity, I personally think one of the key ingredients for any journalist or storyteller is to be curious about the world, to have questions and seeking answers for those questions. The fourth one for me is active engagement with the world. Active engagement with the world, local, national, and international. I can access stories in real time that are halfway across the globe and connect in a meaningful way. Taking it to number five. Avoiding what I call the token narratives. All right, we have to realize there are a multiplicity and mosaic of voices and narratives that exist within each specific culture, gender, ethnic, religious, right? So for example, there is no such thing as the Muslim world. I have never met the Muslim world. I do not know where the Muslim world exists. I don't know what wormhole I need to access to get to this mythical Muslim world. I do not know anything about the Latino American experience because last time I checked when I was living in California, there's Latino American experiences. So we have to, I think, conscientiously avoid token narratives, especially in the newsroom, especially in the media landscape, especially as storytellers. Take it number six. We want to make sure that when we are talking about the cultural stereotypes with the marginalized community, we want to make sure that the cultural minority is the protagonist of that narrative. And our job as a storyteller and a journalist is you can share that story, you can tell that story, but don't co-opt that story, right? Don't, if you will, monopolize that story. Give that story space, respect that story by making that minority the protagonist of that narrative. Seven is for minorities now, who complain about being marginalized, who complain about being excised, who complain about being footnotes, who complain about being stereotypes. My question to them is, what are you going to do about it? So what you have to do for number seven, if you're a minority, and again, women are oftentimes minorities, you have to actually engage in these fields of journalism and storytelling. Because if you don't tell your story, other people will tell your stories for you. And oftentimes, even with the best of intentions, they will tell a marginalized story. So you have to bum rush the show. If you want to break down cultural stereotypes, you have to hold the conch and be the storyteller. Number eight, when you and if you are in that position to hold the conch and to tell the story, whether as a minority or as a person who's given the story of a minority, you have to be very authentic. Be authentic and strive for authenticity. And I think when you're authentic, you gain legitimacy. You gain legitimacy, especially within those cultural communities that oftentimes have the stereotypes. Number nine, when you're talking about breaking down cultural stereotypes, don't fight stereotypes with stereotypes. Let me repeat. Don't fight stereotypes with stereotypes. So if a stereotype is African Americans are lazy and violent, don't put up a narrative or a lazy African American stereotype and then say, oh, I was using humor to break down the stereotype. Oftentimes what happens is you actually just reinforce that stereotype. So if you are trying to upend or booby trap or defang a stereotype, you have to be very knowing, very clever, very witty, and very conscientious. Otherwise, instead of upending the stereotype, you reinforce the stereotype. And then finally, number 10, this often happens to minorities in the arts, in journalism, in politics, meaning that there can only be one Latino politician and it has to be me. There can only be one Pakistani media host, it has to be me. There can only be one female in the boardroom, it has to be me. And instead of turning around and investing in my cultural ecosystem, I will behead everyone else. And I think for many minorities, that's the test, is to, instead of beheading everyone else, it's to invest back in the ecosystem. And realizing that, you know what, when one brown face is shown or one female face is shown, and people see that female voice, the brown face, is an American face and is doing well, and it just happens to be brown or a woman or Pakistani. Oh, there might be others, and who happen to be just great storytellers who also happen to be, Pakistani or a woman or a Muslim. And I think that then increases the pie. It increases the diversity of the pie, it increases the flavors of the pie, it makes for a better newsroom, it makes for a better workplace, it makes for better stories, it makes for more accurate stories, and it makes for better relations locally, nationally, internationally. It helps cure stereotypes and ignorance, which helps policy. And I think it makes just for a much more engaged, informed, conscientious populace. In fact, I've devoted my career to doing that, and I realize how lucky I am to be placed in this position. And I hope this was useful and helpful for anyone who's watching.